I want to make sure that the public knows the urgency of the climate emergency. I've always been aware of climate change and the problems, but it's always felt like something far off in the future. But then having started to read the science, like the IPCC report, and so many scientists all on board with this information, that it is so much more urgent than we realise.
Well, I'm really sorry about the delays and the annoyance we're causing to people. I really understand that, but it seems like the only way that we can have the impact that we need on our government is through a big-scale disruption on the streets.
We have less than 12 years to mitigate the worst effects of climate change, and actions like this are vital in raising public awareness of the sheer scale of the problem.
Basically, I've been an environmental campaigner sort of most of my adult life, and I've been involved with all sorts of different ways of campaigning. I've written letters, I've signed petitions, I've taken part in marches and things, and basically nothing has really changed as a result of that. And so I joined up and decided to get involved and put my body on the line for something that I believe really strongly about.
People have been campaigning on this for decades, but with not nearly enough result from that so far, and it seems the way that we can get government to act on this is through mass disruption on the streets.
They've declared a climate emergency. If they really were treating it like an emergency, there would have been a debate in Parliament the next day, there would have been legislation put in place, there would have been processes started to deal with this crisis. At the moment, all we've got is a declaration of an emergency. If we don't start our action now, it will be very soon too late.
They've just committed to zero carbon in Britain by 2050. 2050 is way too late. It has to be much, much sooner than that. Scientists are really worried. Climate scientists are really, really worried. Report after report and study after study is showing that we are setting in train exponential climate and ecological breakdown changes, which will at some point reach tipping points beyond which we can't bring them back.
If we don't stop that temperature rise, there is going to be devastation beyond what we can imagine, and it will come to us. It's not just elsewhere.
It's not a case of it's going to happen in 50 years' time, it's happening now.
Like, they've only just stopped making plastic straws, and we're still going through them and through them and through them, and they're still all over the UK.
50 to 80% of the oxygen we breathe is produced by thriving marine ecosystems. We're killing them. The rest of the oxygen we breathe, more or less, is produced by forests. We're chopping them all down. Our high consumerist lifestyle is bringing about our own death, and our governments are allowing us to sleepwalk to the edge of the cliff.
Britain spends like £10.5 billion a year on subsidising fossil fuels. That's more than any other country in Europe. So that's not good enough, is it? We need to do something now, especially as we've said there's a climate emergency. We need to act on that. There's no good having a target if we're not going to actually reach it.
The more people that there are, the bigger impact that's going to make. And although it's very unfortunate we're inconveniencing people, it's going to be worth it in the long run, because there's so much stuff that needs to be changed and done.
I love the fact that people come down in a non-violent way. I love the fact that it's an alcohol-free zone and a drug-free zone, and I've met families and people in pushchairs coming down.
I've got two small children, and I want them to have, the opportunities I've had as they grow up, and not have to live in a world where it's fraught with danger and unrest.
I don't know how much impact we can have, whether we can really make the difference that we want. But I feel like all we can do is have a go.
2050 is way too late. We're the first generation that knows the seriousness of the climate situation, and the last one that's going to be able to do anything about it. We have to act now. That's what this is about.